Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Sciences and Public Policy at Walden University with the joint faculty program at Ross University School of Medicine. And I wanted to go over something called arrogance of affluence or arrogance of food. Um, has anybody ever told you that the food that you consume is potentially unhealthy or potentially is leading to switching over to calorie dense diet rather than a more healthy diet. So um, food insecurity leads individuals to spend less on certain spend less on um, the healthy foods and then switch over as money leaves go over and switch over to calorie dense diet. So looking at European Union here, it's a bit different. They had their Green Deal and kind of understanding the ideologues. They had a refugee crisis and major war, food insecurity in Europe. So this not only was going on at the time of this environmental policies, but also before that. So this has been going on, this arrogance of affluence for a couple of years. And so the scientific bodies, the farm to fork strategy is to use food that has been produced locally and then allowing that to go to the residents of that community. However, the farm to fork program has been criticized by most scientific bodies. The Commission's own Joint Research Center criticized this. Not by one iota have they compromised their unrealistic ambitions or listened to others. This Puritan commitment enforcing a failed strategy could be considered as admirable from a Lysenkian perspective, but it belies an ideological arrogance that can only be tolerated by affluent activists who could afford the dreadful consequences of their medieval food beliefs. So this all started, some of the World Defense are Franz Timmermans and Ursula von der Leyen. The European Commission cannot continue to lead by ideology and solve the consequences of their failure simply by throwing money at it. The cupboard is bare. Europe is not self-sufficient in food production, and Brussels is not in position to feed the world. So, it may be all rainbows, unicorns, and butterflies, but when it comes to implementing policy built on it needs to be built on compromise and pragmatic solutions. And there's some thought that this is not something, because countries are not self-sufficient, and this is not something that could be important. So these are seen as dinosaurs of a failed policy approach, which provides and represents of lost opportunities and a lasting symbol of the waste of Europe's peace dividend. So this is something that is relevant not only in modern day time, but it takes a cold soul to force the torment of Tantalus on the world. So I wanted to continue here, and this is actually Tantalus, and what is interesting is that there's all this food that is real close to him, but he's never quite able to get it. And so it's important to understand how this is similar to food insecurity, because a lot of different concepts are proposed through symbols, and Tantalus, um, he was this was his punishment. Here he's allowed to have water, but in the original story he wasn't even allowed water. Um, and the Tantalus can be applied to a lot of different stories. So this is an anecdote, and here there's there's some sort of opposition between Tantalus and what's being done on a major scale and what is needing to be done on the ground. So agroecology is a rather slippery concept with many definitions built around various political interests. So it's a social justice warrior, anti-industry activist, and organic farming lobbyist. And they're obsessively naturopathic. Agroecology is built on a series of rejection of modern agricultural technologies. So a scientific approach to agriculture would look at each situation and each need and develop the best technologies and systems to obtain an optimal solution, constantly checking and revising where necessary. This agroecological approach then would start with a series of dogmatic restrictions. So for instance, farmers cannot use synthetic inputs, they cannot work with large corporations, and they cannot trade on international markets. Research based on such fundamentals dogma is not scientific. So in a political construct, the activists pushing agroecology are battling to keep African smallholders from using better seeds, crop protection measures, and synthetic fertilizers. They're pushing to keep these subsistence farmers impoverished. And some of these, and I've seen examples of this before. Some of these smallholders actually are responsible for a diverse electron. A lot of these individuals are, from a political construct, the African smallholders are decreasing because of the seeds. For instance, many of the seeds were replaced due to the drought-resistant seeds. Many of the local seeds were replaced by drought-resistant. So all of the local diversity gets destroyed for in terms of different trees and everything are destroyed, and plants and ecosystem. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Farm to fork, let them eat cake. This European Commission has defined itself by its Green Deal strategy, and they've tried relentlessly to push it through hell, pandemic, or high water. So you could expect these obsessive ideologues to push their farm to fork strategy as a solution for world hunger. I wish I were making this up, but acute aware of the interrelations between our health, ecosystem, supply chains, consumption patterns, and planetary boundaries. The Commission set out its vision for a fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly food system. So in this strategy, the Commission underlined the importance of the resilience of the EU food system. So what needs to be done is ensuring access to a sufficient supply of affordable food for citizens under all circumstances, and to undergo a transition to sustainable food systems in a fair and democratic manner. And this is aligned with the European Pillar of Social Rights. So there's definitely some areas of emphasis. So for instance, there's the tariffs by the World Trade Organization, and dairy products get the highest tariff, and then sugars and confectionery, which is not too much of a surprise. Then meat products, animals and meat products, and some individuals, of course, don't eat meat, and so that is incredibly wonderful for their health. But there's other things like social justice. There's things about communication. Know anything about the European Union. So this is a example of arrogance, of affluence. These Madagascar children eating meager meals. And that's just sad, because they're not able to have the diverse, energy-rich diets. Unfortunately, they're, as you can see, eating a lot of energy-poor diets. So that's not necessarily healthy for the children, and it brings bad health. So we're dealing with restrictions and export bans on food, as the track record of these are disastrous. Remember the economic downturn 2007, 2008? Well, there was a crisis amply demonstrated in various parts of the world. We might not have experienced it here, but the track record of these are disastrous. So what happened is World Trade Organization coordinated will be essential. So increased resilience, that's discussed again and again in these in this reading. So to increase resilience, what do? Well, import countries are encouraged to ensure better diversification of sources of food supplies. And as you can see, there's no diversification here. It's mostly rice. So moreover, well-functioning global supply chains and logistics are essential for global food security. And this is a sad plight of children in Harare scavenging for fallen grains of corn. Not the scavenger hunt these children should be forced to do. And this is just another reason that there needs to be some sort of intervention that is done. This goes into the pandemic, climate change, and take a second to look at it. So, however, the invasion of Ukraine might have and a global community price boom are driving up prices in agriculture and seafood product markets and exposing the vulnerabilities of our food systems. Our dependence on imports of energy, fertilizer, and animal feed. So a lot of the wheat that's being stopped and not exported by Ukraine is affecting in food systems, has an impact on energy and fertilizer. So the trade disruption of also raises serious concerns about global food security. So blaming others doesn't really go anywhere. This is an example of marasmus, where Stanford Hira, 46, a farmer in Zimbabwe, survived on the meager diet. This is a very haunting but tame image of the suffering that activists created through fear-mongering. Anyway, so the farm-to-fork energy, farm-to-fork strategy is something that worked effectively in certain areas, but when you're going through and trying to present this in global context, this may not be the case, and you would need to create kind of a global system of understanding then then kind of merge it with so global versus local leads to the most optimal interventions. When you don't have data in each or one or the other, then you can kind of use something else to understand the plight in this situation, even qualitative research. So this sums up the food arrogance, food security, and some of the related food aspects that are important to go into. So if you get a chance, go through this article. Thank you for listening.